guys. Welcome back to the Standard of Truth podcast, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. I am so excited to do this show today because, y'all, we have some buzzword phrases that are really going to make you clutch your pearls, but it's for a good reason. So the buzzwords for today are overlords, house Negroes, Field Negroes. And the question is, which one are you? That is what we're going to be talking about on today's show. My friends, when we examine American politics, no one is going to argue that in today's climate that things are just not all wonky and incredibly polarizing. Things are out of control. But my guest today has taken up the task to simply unpack and explain the political dysfunction that is plaguing our country today. Dr. Kevin McGary, who is also known as Dr. Mac, he is the author of Revealed, the Archetypes of American Politics. Dr. Mac, he is a ministry leader, an entrepreneur, an author, public speaker, he does all things well. He is the co-founder of Every Black Life Matters, which is an organization that is simply dedicated to civic engagement and biblical justice. Now, Kevin's he's a very accomplished author. He's got 8 published books under his belt. His latest releases of DEI in 3D. I've actually read Freed to Be Servant and Slave. He offers insightful critiques of cultural schemes that he argues undermine American principles, traditions, and biblical truths. Now, Kevin holds a doctoral degree, that's a PhD, my friends, in Christian ministry, leadership, and management, and he maintains an active role in supporting pastors and ministry leaders worldwide. So please welcome to the show my friend and my brother from another mother, but the same father, Dr. Kevin McGary. Hey, friend, how are you this evening?
Hey, sis, so good to be with you. I mean, this is a real honor and privilege for me because you are on fire.
Don't
Listening to
say that, because I get
some of
hot.
your shows, especially the one last night, was unbelievable. It's just it's a tremendous honor for me. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. So, Kevin, you and we met at the Atlanta premiere of Vince Everett Ellison's film, Will You Go to Hell for Me? And I was so honored to know that you were going to be in town and that you stopped by. And it's so funny because it was there that I learned that you and I are already like 1 degree separated from each
Yeah.
other through mutual friends, particularly with the Frederick Douglass Leadership Institute, which I know you are intimately affiliated with them. But today you are on here to talk about your newest book. In your book, it's called Revealed, the Archetypes of American Politics. And I started reading the book. I am almost finished, but life is lifing. So I hope, there you go. There's the book, you guys. It is a very good book. High level, just an academic breakdown, but in very, very simple terms for the common man to understand. So I want to get straight into the book because in the book, you present these 3 different archetypes. I've already named them. You got the house Negro, the field Negro, and the overlord. And what you do with these archetypes, well, first, let me define an archetype for you guys. It's essentially characters that kind of represent something recognizable or relatable to help people understand a larger or more complex topic. So when I first read the title, immediately it causes me to think about slavery and plantation life. So as it relates to American politics with these 3 archetypes, tell me what inspired you to use these archetypes to describe American political dynamics?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking about that. Fundamentally, what I saw as a big disconnect with how we now talk about politics. It used to be
Right.
back in the day that we could talk about politics and we could reason together or try to reason together, and at the end of the day we can respectfully disagree. Okay, you have your opinion, I have mine, and we'll be.
Right.
But now those days are over. I mean, if you disagree with somebody who is a leftist, progressive, Marxist, globalist type, they castigate you as a white Christian nationalist, white evangelical, racist, Nazi,
Right.
Hitler. I mean, it's like, wait, I just have a different opinion. Can I just be independent? Can I just be a free thinker? When I saw the
Right.
level of vitriol, really coming from one side, I thought there's something more at play here. This is not your simple
Mm.
disagreement. There's a
Right.
real ideological commitment here that's beyond rationality, logic, reason, any of that stuff. So we can't reason with people these days. So I started to look at what could this be? And the most profound illumination of what we're going through right now is what I found with Malcolm X. Malcolm X and his message to the grassroots. So his message to the grassroots in 1963 in Michigan, he said, "Look, I'm paraphrasing, but fundamentally, this
Right.
is what he took him through." He says, "Look, I've taken a look at life on the antebellum South, on the life on the plantation." And I've taken a look at the life of Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass, Henry Box, and others
Right.
who were born into slavery and who escaped. And I also took a look at their interpersonal relationships on the plantation. What was that like,
Right.
and that kind of thing. And he says, what I conclude is life on the plantation as it was has now spilled over to America generally. And he says, so you have to understand what the basic characterizations or the characters, who they were on the plantation. He says you had your overlord, which is the plantation owner,
Right.
the man of the house who had, typically a wife and a couple kids. And then he says, it's kind of ironic, but when you think about, a small family with 50 to 100 acres and multiple slaves, how do you keep control of them? Well, you have to understand that the overlord, the master of the house, he looked for people, his slaves within his slave community. He looked for people that could be, potentially manipulated. So these are people that he would bring into the house, and he would basically say, look, I could make you like a foreman over the slaves, where and you could live here in the house with us. You can have my hand-me-down clothes. You can sleep in the attic or the basement. When we eat, you can eat with us at the dinner table. You can have the
Right.
first of all the scraps that we have. He basically laid it out for him that, look, I'm going to compensate you. And what is he compensating him for? He's compensating him for, on the other side, I need you to snitch on anybody and everybody that's thinking about leaving the plantation. So house Negroes are the ones that are really the ones that are incentivized to make sure that everybody stays on the plantation. When Frederick Douglass got caught trying to escape a couple times, it was a house Negro that went up to the overlord and said, Freddie's about to make a break tonight. And they were ready for it. So the house Negroes are the ones who they're incented to make sure everybody stays on the plantation. Everybody, takes ownership in the plantation. They get the same sort of general mindset, and they become part of the overlords kind of community. The field
Right.
Negro are the ones who are always looking to escape. So, like I've mentioned before, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass, those are very well known heroes and heroines who escape. And they're the ones who are always, look, it's me and God, overlord or not. I know this is your plantation, but you don't have any more authority than I have. You're a human being just like I am. This whole scenario where you have the audacity to try to tell me that I
Right.
have to be a slave to you is ridiculous. That's the mindset of the field Negroes, always looking, hey, look, God gave me innate capabilities, natural capabilities to be free. Why would I be a perpetual slave for you? You're
Right.
human like I am. So that was the mindset of the field Negro. So basically, Malcolm X said, look, this is played out and overlaid now into the American political landscape. if you look at the overlords in my vernacular now today, you'd see the World Economic Forum and George Soros and Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. They're the overlords. They're the globalists. They're architecting societies around the world, trying to keep, trying to figure out, well, how do we get our next pandemic going? How do we get whatever to make sure we keep control over the masses?
So
Then you have your
those are your
yeah,
overlords, right?
yes.
Okay,
Those are
go
the
ahead.
overlords, correct. And then you would have, in my vernacular today, you'd have your house Negroes. Those would be
Right.
like in the mainstream media, in faith, which you've done an excellent job at really characterizing who in our faith communities are more of that ilk. And that would be, black pastors that insist you must vote for the sister because she, had nothing to do with the faith foundations, but,
Right.
those would be in the mainstream media: Joy Reid, Bill Maher, Taylor Swift, the entire cast of The View. These are people. Again, I'm talking about archetypes and pathologies.
Apologies.
So it goes against nothing about skin color. These are not pejoratives. When I say
Right.
Negro, it's only indicating that there's a pathology attached with it that drives people into an ideological sort of vent that keeps them in this path that they're on. So in that case, you would have those types of media types. In the Field Negro syndrome, you would have people like Elon Musk, who is
Ah, he
who could
ran.
clearly fit, yeah, who could clearly fit in the overlord class, but he's rejected it. He says, "No, I want nothing to do with y'all. Crazy, you try to enslave the entire world. People need to be free." So that's Elon Musk. That would be again, President Trump, who could also be in part of that globalist overlord class, and he rejected him. He told him, "I don't want any parts of this. America's never going to be socialist." Those would be the people who are like the Field Negroes, like you and me, who look. We just want to be free. Come what may. You can call me names. You can call me Nazi. You can call me a sympathizer with white
Yeah.
supremacy. Whatever. Get out of here. Lose me with that. We're going to be free. We're going to serve God and serve our fellow man and try to get them free as well. But that's our
Right.
mindset. We don't care what kind of pejoratives come our way. Freedom is what we want, and that's what we're inclined toward.
I absolutely love these archetypes, and they're so easy to relate to. Like when you mention The View and Joy Reid, immediately I'm like, oh, absolutely, those are the house Negroes. You stole my next question because I was going to ask you to give me some examples of how it plays out in today's cultural or
Oh,
political climate. But I guess we can go a little deeper with those house Negroes in terms of, you say they're incentivized. I wrote down, you said they're
yes,
incentivized to keep everyone on the plantation. So a lot
yes.
of times, sometimes I ask myself, when I'm watching The View, I'm like, these women can't possibly really believe this. Do they actually believe the rhetoric that they're saying, or because they're incentivized, they're just playing a role? And I know it's difficult to probably answer that, but what do you think, by and large, most of the time, do these house Negroes really, are they really buying in to the ideology, or it's because of the incentive they will speak and live one way publicly, but in private they'll do something different?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. First of all, I want to mention that the power that you gain from having this perspective of the archetypes is incredible, because now you could see people and you could say they're playing a role. These are intelligent people. Joy Reid she's smart. She's quick. She's smart. She's not an unintelligent person. But she is playing a role because because she is incentivized. Her incentive. So for people well, I don't know, she's just in media. What do you mean? Well, she caters to a very specific audience: people who hate, Trump, and who hate conservatives or Republicans. It's a very specific audience, and she feeds to that audience 1,000%. They know they can
Right.
go there and count on her for their daily bread, for just hating anything that has to do with conservatism or republicanism, Trumpism, whatever.
Right.
And she fills that lane perfectly. Now, if she were to try to equivocate and try to come more towards the center, she would lose a good percentage of her audience. This is her role. She gets paid a lot of money, to, over $10 million last time I checked, to do that specific thing on MSNBC. So so you have to understand these people are being compensated. Also, she gets invited to all the elitist parties. She may even get invited to the globalist parties. That would be like Davos and Cannes and other places, Monaco, where she can hang out with very specific globalist overlord types and be closely associated with them. This pays her in a number of different ways, and this is what she does. Like I said, these people are not dumb. The people on the View, if we think of them logically and practically and rationally, it would drive us crazy because we're like, these people, how could they be so stupid? They're not stupid.
Right.
They have to do what they're doing because they have to keep us on the plantation. If their job is to keep us on the plantation, then of course they're going to try to guilt us and shame us and try to cast as many pejoratives as they can so we don't think differently and we don't do anything differently. They want us cowering in the corner. They want us to be under the threat of being doxxed or canceled all the time so they can keep us there. And so this is how they operate. And if we have that perspective, like, I see they're just playing their role as opposed to trying to think logically about what they're doing, then we could understand. I mean, so, I hope this is making sense to you. These people are not dumb.
It is. I mean, it's amazing the way you articulate this, because this conversation can go in a myriad of different directions. When I think about everything that you've said, I think about, okay, the Democrat Party probably post Reconstruction and slightly after the Civil Rights Movement. And because you said that this term House Negro and Overlord is not dermal or external, it's not a reflection of what these people look like. Sometimes I wonder if the white Southern Democrats and the KKK, if we could use this archetypal framework to place them and say, well, were some of them overlords and were some of them house Negroes? And then how would you, this is controversial, right? Yeah. Where would you put someone like an MLK?
Well, based upon the great work that a good friend of ours, Brother Vince, has gone through on MLK, I don't quite know where to put Dr. MLK at the moment. I don't quite get that. He was more of a socialist type, according to the recent things that have come out from the great work with Vince Ellison. And anybody that's socialist Marxist is automatically a House Negro or potentially an overlord. Now, you have to understand when, and I go into the book, I go into a lot of detail about Marxism and Marx as a person. Frederick Douglass was born in the exact same year as Marx, Karl Marx. And that was the end of where things, any similarities. Frederick Douglass had great disdain for Marx, because Marx completely overlooked slavery as an issue and was always about, no, just workers and unions. Forget slavery, And he was, he hated blacks. I mean, he's on record. He used the N-word quite frequently. So Douglass was like, man, this guy's a joker. He needs to be dismissed. He didn't care anything about our plight here. He's trying to rejigger the world to his own economic philosophy. It has more to do with not allowing us as freed people to go out and actually make our way, but trying to keep us in this system that would actually have a ceiling to it, which, he was talking towards communism. And so Douglas is like, this guy's an idiot. As well, Malcolm X, he hated Marx and Marxism. He said, no, this is not a good system. And it's amazing today. Fundamentally, if you were to take you go ahead and do some kind of a survey, especially amongst, blacks, you would find that by and large, a lot of us would actually accept, socialism. Oh, socialism's kind of cool. Taking the money from the wealthy and giving it to us so we could.
Right.
It's amazing how that's kind of turned up on its head over these past 60 years. But Malcolm, he was like, no, man, Marx, that's a whole rigged system. It's jacked up. We can't go that way. So
Right.
so anybody that encourages or embraces socialism, Marxism is automatically not for freedom because
Right.
that system comes with it authoritarianism and totalitarianism. It's infused in that economic philosophy.
Right.
So by and large, so you can't be a field Negro, somebody that wants to be free and independent and all of that, and at the same time want, some kind of socialized, government-controlled, authoritarian type of a mechanism. And
Right.
so, from that perspective, I would say Dr. MLK was probably more of the House Negro type. And apparently, because of Vince's great work, he was having his strings pulled by a lot of different people, sort of in that overlord, category.
Class.
So he was
Right.
more of a House Negro type.
Right. I found that interesting. Shifting gears a little bit, I'm
Yeah,
gonna bring up a term that you talk about when you discuss betrayal, blindness, and
yeah,
Stockholm syndrome. In the context when you're talking about in the context of the House Negro, I'm wondering how do these psychological frameworks, how do they affect political loyalty? So basically what I'm asking is the psychology behind Stockholm syndrome, and I don't know if you want to go ahead and define that for the audience. That
okay,
psychological
yeah,
syndrome and how it connects with the political loyalty. For example, in the black community, Vince has actually argued that we're suffering from Stockholm syndrome, where we are actually in love with our oppressor, and that's why we can't effectively
yeah.
leave off the plantation. How would you argue that these psychological frameworks are affecting political loyalty?
Yeah, absolutely. That is a great question. So here's how I would define that. Stockholm syndrome, first of all, very quickly and easy. Stockholm syndrome is a case where you are, you may be maligned and assaulted, and your abuser, who does the maligning and assaulting, over time, you're so used to that abuse that you actually are comfortable with it. So when you have an opportunity to escape it, you don't because it's now you closely associate with it. It's
Right.
part of your comfort level to a degree, right? So Stockholm syndrome is where you actually come to ingratiate yourself to your abuser at some level. There's
Right.
obviously, depending on how horrendous the abuse is, you may find a way to escape. But by and large, if it's something that you can live with, a lot of people say, "Well, I actually feel more comfortable now being associated with this." Now, and I do think that we see that in broad scale in our community, and I'll get to how that's so in a second. The other question was about betrayal by blindness, which is a part
Yes.
of this, what I would call a psychosis. And I do explain it as,
Okay.
psychosis within there. I mean, these are, you can't rationally fathom why people would think this way from a rational perspective. But
Right.
with if you understand that they're part of a pathology that indwells some kind of psychosis with it, then okay, you can kind of understand. So betrayal blindness is when you know something is incongruent with what you fundamentally believe, or fundamentally know is not right, and yet
Right.
within yourself you reconcile that it's okay. So you betray your personal morals, your faith, your values, because you you want to be a good Democrat, for instance, right? So let me give you a practical example.
Okay.
Barack Obama is not a dumb man. He's been educated. He knows full well the whole story behind Margaret Sanger and her saying that she wants to exterminate blacks. He knows full well, that 90% or 90% of her obituaries are within walking distance of our community. This is not, this and other well-known, very intelligent Democrats know this as well. Yet they tell us, and so they know this is a racist scheme to exterminate blacks. They know full well. Yet they sign on to it because they're being compensated. Planned Parenthood has always compensated very well the Democrat Party.
Right.
And they would betray themselves and their community to go all in. And so that's betrayal blindness. You know what's happening here, but you're going to betray yourself, your personal ethic towards racial whatever, racial unity. I don't know what Obama would call it, but he would say something racial,
Right.
racial equity. Let's say he would say that. You know that Planned Parenthood is the number one way that's racist, white supremacist, and yet you fall all in with it, while others who stand against it, you actually project you're a racist and white supremacist because you won't allow us to delete black babies. This is like unbelievable. It's
It's
like
unheard
how
of.
do you make sense of this? This is so so that's an example of betrayal blindness. And another example of betrayal blindness is folks that you've mentioned recently, Freddie Haynes and
Jamal
Jamal
Bryant.
Bryant. These
Mm-hmm.
are not dumb men. They know full well
They know.
what's happening within the black community, what happens in the Bible, right? These
Right.
are learned Bible. They understand the Bible. I don't know if they understand God or the sufficiency of the cross, but they do understand the Bible. They at least read,
Right.
and yet they would fall all in over skin color, over gender, over a Democrat Party mindset to stay connected with that, even when they know it's not in their best interest to do that. They know it's not in, because we're going to continue to disproportionately kill black babies or delete black babies. I don't know what I could say on this
Right.
platform.
You can say delete.
We're going to, yeah, delete, disproportionately harm black families that are just trying to make it, but yet the economic disparities are so extreme now with double and triple digit inflation. They know the carnage that's been happening over the past 4 years. They see the suffering, but they within themselves they can reconcile their level of betrayal blindness and Stockholm syndrome to stay connected with this entity, the Democrat Party,
Wow.
even though it's an abusive party to their community. It is. I mean, manifestly, you can just look at it. So, and you and I have come from, and most people like us have come from this background of being former Democrats. We know. I
Right.
mean, with clear eyes, we can see it. But yet, there's this desire to continue to push this. So those would be great examples, I think, of betrayal blindness and Stockholm syndrome, where
Right.
people, do these things in order to, and you just keep doing it uh, out of allegiance, out of blind allegiance, those kinds of things.
Right. I think that's a great way for you to articulate that. I want to shift gears a little bit. We were talking about the House Negro a lot, not too much about the Overlords, but I have this saying, you've heard me say on my show, I'm one of those, I like to function in my freedom. And
Hmm.
so when you speak on the Field Negroes, kind of embodying this independence and resilience, what lessons do you think us today could learn from generations if we could draw back from that field negro mindset? What lessons do you think that we could learn from them so that one more of us who are probably more field negro minded can either gain strength or inspiration from them, or if there are individuals who are now hearing this and they're like, you know what, I knew something was going on politically, and I probably might consider myself a field negro, but I'm kind of not. I need like a Harriet Tubman to come and snatch me. What would you offer in terms of some lessons that we can learn when we pull from the strength of people like that?
Great. That's a great question. So here's we have a bit of a paradox. Okay, so I had a conversation with my niece, and she says, "Look, Unc, I think I'm a field Negro, but in my job, I have to kind of toe the line. Um, Even politically, I don't want to have any arguments with our family and things like
Oh.
that. So I kind of just toe the line. And I say, well, okay, you may think that you're a field Negro, and maybe you will be there one day, but you are a house Negro. House Negroes, very simply, I could do the distinction for you very simply.
Okay.
A field Negro is people who have that pathology. They don't care about consequences. When Frederick
That's
Douglass
me.
tried to leave the plantation multiple times, he was beat within an inch of his life when he was caught one of those times, and that's well documented. But he continued to try to get up out of there. He didn't care. They risk life, limb,
Mm.
reputation, anything because they think it's them and God. And there's no why do I have to subject myself to your policies, your schemes against me?
Your
You're trying
abuse.
to confine me and put me in a box. You're trying to make me some kind of collectivist within this groupthink idea. No, that's not me. I'm free, and I don't care.
Right.
Come what may. That's it. And if we got to go to blows, then hey, okay, bring it. Let's do it. You know.
Right.
So a field Negro doesn't care about how consequences, how many times people in the family, Kev, he's the Republican. He's a black sheep up in here. During I don't care what they say. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm still me, baby, and I'm gonna keep doing my thing. I don't
Right.
care what my
Care.
family says about me. I don't care what my in-laws say about. I don't care. I want freedom, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to be there. A house Negro mindset is one that will stay on the plantation to keep the peace,
That
because
comfort.
it's comfort. They don't want any consequences. I know I could probably leave the plantation and escape tomorrow, but I don't want to, potentially my friends to be harmed because they didn't tell on me or whatever. I'm going to just stay here, continue to toe the line. So even if you have the best of intentions and you recognize freedom, but you choose to stay in that mindset, it's okay. You're still a house Negro fulfilling the role. Now, you may not be an active one that's going to cast aspersions and do the pejoratives towards others who want to escape, but you're still on the plantation. Freedom is the difference.
Ah.
If you want to be free, that is quintessential pathology of a field Negro. If you're
Right.
perfectly happy with towing the line, being in there with the rest of the group, making sure everybody know that, hey, I'm with y'all, it's all good, or house Negro mindset. It's a house Negro pathology.
Wow.
It's not. I hope that makes sense. Does that
It,
help?
it does. It sounds
Yeah.
like that concept of that bandwagon effect that you attribute to the house Negro mentality. Why do you think that bandwagon effect is so widespread?
Because it's easy. So it's
It's
easy for us to conform. It's easy for us to be part of the collective. There's no problem.
There's
We
no
show up and
sacrifice or cost.
no cost. If we
Right.
show up, everybody's kumbaya. We're all good. We're going the same direction. So it's easy.
Right.
Trump, when he was coming down the escalator, it would have been easy for him to say, "Look, I'm running as a Democrat." No problem. They would have
Right.
loved him. They would have, appreciated
Embraced
him. They
them.
would have embraced him. It would have been easy for him to take that path. Very easy, because he helped both sides up until that time where he definitively said, "I'm running as a Republican." So if he had said, "I'm running as a Democrat," that's easy. That's no problem.
Right.
The life of the field Negro, you don't look for an easy way out. You look for your own
Mm.
personal freedom and for the freedom of mankind, freedom from others around you. And so you're more concerned with not the just kumbaya with the collective. You're concerned with what's right, what's inevitable. Can I serve God? Can I serve my fellow man in a way that is independent and free, where I don't have any structures around me or above me that's going to force
Right.
me to do a particular thing in a particular way.
That's incredible. I feel like when I listen to you articulate this, I want to obviously you're preaching to the choir because I'm just like I am definitely team Field Negro. I have been that way
Yeah.
my entire life, as long as I can remember being encumbered. And some would argue, oh, you know, you sound like you just have a rebellious spirit. And I'm like, no, because I was a very compliant child in terms of being obedient to my mother. But I was that but why child. I was like, but why? If it didn't make sense, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do it. And that mindset kind of followed me throughout, you know, my middle school years in high school. I got kicked out of theology camp at 17, and it wasn't for poor behavior. It was literally an ideological difference. They wanted me to do something that was against a personal conviction of mine. And I was like, no, y'all gonna just have to send me home. You know, I could have, the embarrassment of, you know, how you get kicked out of camp. I could have they essentially, I'll tell the story. They wanted me to attend a ordination. This was at Candler School of Theology here at Emory, very liberal. And I was selected as one of their their scholars to, don't ask me what I was doing at theology camp at 17, but they wanted me to attend this ordination of a young woman who, come to find out, was a lesbian, who the night before her ordination went and got a tattoo and was just partying and living it up. And, you know, my little Baptist self, even though I was liberal and Democrat, I couldn't reconcile me attending the ordination with what she was professing and proclaiming. I was like, well, if I go, that's like me co-signing to what she's doing. And I was respectful, but I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna stay in my room. And they were like, no, you have to go. And I was like, but why? There's that but why again. Listen, they gave me to the close of business that day to get on the bandwagon. And I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to do it. And my daddy had to come and get me. But I get that Field
That's
Negro.
a wonderful, That's a wonderful example. Let me give you my story on that as well. Because I used to be kind of cowardice and just, I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I'm just chill. It's fine. You do what we could all be in here together. It's okay. The difference was, though, when I got married, when I met the love of my life 37 years ago, we said we want to live strictly biblically, okay? So when we did that, that was the breaking point for me. Because what the Lord took us through is all of the domains of our life, and especially this civic engagement piece. Now, you have to understand, she was born inner city Detroit. I was inner city San Francisco. In Hunters Point, I was a crazy boy from, just doing all kinds of stuff. And then I went to San Jose State, got a sociology degree. So I was steeped in Democrat, Marxism, the whole bit. No problem. But when we committed ourselves and committed our marriage to live biblically, that was the break. It was like, oh, so when we tried to fit, because we had nobody told us about republicanism, conservative, we didn't care about that, right? But we just wanted to live this out. We wanted to live the Bible. So when we really took it seriously and started to look at the Bible and then look at the platforms and try to apply the Bible to our civic engagement, we said, you know what? We've been jacked up all this time. We thought we were helping our community, and we're actually hurting them because the policies of this party just doesn't comport with freedom or with faith foundations. From that moment that we said we want to live biblically, we were, and we started to vote differently. We started to act differently and civically engage differently. We didn't care what our family said. Here's the message. If you are sincere about this thing, you are a field Negro, because the culture and the globalist society is taking you the other direction. I hope this is making sense.
It's making sense.
You cannot be, well, I want to kind of be a free field Negro pathology, but I need to continue to do the all the Baptists, and toe the line with Jamal and them as they take us down. No, you can't do both. It's impossible to live this out sincerely and to be without being a field Negro, without being committed to that pathology. In today's society, the only way you can live that out sincerely, is to be of a field Negro mindset. Come what may, it's me and God. I don't care what y'all say. I'm going to do what I do. It's me and God. He is my, my director. He is the author and the finisher of my faith. I am going to go all in wherever and however that turns out, even if it offends you. If I need to vote differently, I don't care. And that's how I am with my family. They know my wife and I, we're the outliers on her side and my side. We care less. It's fine. No problem. We don't talk politics. They know where we stand. And they know that we will never lose an argument because we're standing on this. And so they purposely don't, oh, okay, Kevin and Tracy coming over. We better, we can't talk to them about it because so that's how it should be. When we show up, people should be fearful and not want to engage with us in conversation because they know we're going to call them to the carpet on the truth, not out of arrogance, not out of, well, I'm higher educated than you. No, on this. If we can stand on this together, we can do this thing and we can all be free.
So
Jesus said, I have come to set the captives free.
Yes.
Right? So.
It sounds like you have literally laid out for us the gospel implications of if you claim the name of Christ and you're aligning your life with his word, then you will clearly see which one of these categorical archetypes you fit in. And for the believer, we're not called to be an overlord, right? We're definitely not called to be a house Negro. So it sounds like for those of us who claim the name of Christ, the only option to be a good Christian and to be consistent with the testimony of Scripture, you got to be a field Negro.
Got to. That's the only archetype that actually allows us to be free. And the gospel promises us freedom. So if that's, we should all embrace that. But so many of us, we're tied to institutions of faith, like denominations that are, like Kojic, for instance, their bishop comes out and say, we with her. Now you have a couple of field Negroes that I mentioned in this book, which would be Bishop Wooden, and others that are mentioned in there that are of the field. They don't care what their bishop of Kojic says. They're going to do what thus saith the Lord. So, but that's the difference, right? You have Bishop Wooden and you have Bishop Sheard. One is towing the line, and some people may think, well, what's Bishop Sheard's incentive to say that he's with her? The incentive is he has her cell phone number. He says, I've been texting her. He is closely associated. If she wins, he's in the White House. He gets,
So that's the incentive. But okay, would you also argue that there's a little bit of cowardice? Because it's easy to, I got her cell phone number. It's different to stand on the side of someone like a Bishop Wooden who has counted the cost. That it is so much more easier to be like, let me go on and get along just to get along. And then you end up betraying your faith. You end up effectively having a perpetual Peter moment where you're like, I don't know him. And then I see you by the fire. You're like, I don't know him. And all it takes is for you to have one too many of those Peter moments, and the next thing you know, you over in full blown apostasy.
Yeah. And I call it in the book, I call it the Judas spirit as well, because these people are on the take, right? They during COVID, a lot of these major denominations were making millions because they dictated, you cannot even step foot in our sanctuary until you show us you had the jab, and until you comport with our mask policy, and all of this other kind of stuff was going down.
Right.
And they were being compensated by the government. And so a lot of them, and I call out a couple of them, I call out, Creflo, I call out TD, these people, and a number of others that you guys know are in there. Because I have to use names here, because other than that, you're kind of left with who is what. No, I call out names, I call out organizations, you clearly see. So now you can track with the type that associates with these archetypes, right? So,
Right.
so these people have been compensated very well. They've been compensated with literal dollars, and they've been compensated with social credibility. I call it social cred. So now they have the ability to be in these elitist environments with the movers and shakers, the globalists, the people that
They
are
get invited to
re-architecting
the
the world.
Diddy. They get invited to the
Yeah,
Diddy party.
yeah.
You been swallowed.
Woo-hoo!
Let me behave. Let
Oh,
me.
come on now.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying. But go ahead.
That's it. That's it. And so they can be easily compromised. Once they're so that's the other thing. Once they're compromised, you got them. They're captured. You don't have to worry about them
That's
anymore. They're
it.
captured. They're taken off the battlefield. You know, they're gonna
They
play by
done.
whatever rules you want. So we have some. I heard the other day it was 35 or 38 or so pastors that have been associated with Diddy. Well, they're captured. They're compromised. They're for all intents and purposes, they're not on the battlefield of the Lord anymore. They have to just
No.
try to protect their reputation by making sure none of this stuff leaks out and all this kind of stuff. So
Listen,
that's part of it.
that's a lot of pastors. Before we go ahead and tell the audience a little bit more of how they can get your book and learn more about you, I want to wrap up with this question, because you described the overlord as having this mindset of narcissism and rooted in this quest for power.
Yes.
And so, and also, they want to shape and define their legacy. So, since we named the names, do you see any modern political figures that you would categorize as the overlord archetype, who come with this narcissistic mindset and this desire to want to have a narrative that they personally can craft and shape around their legacy? Like,
So
I just had
that's
one
an
come to
interesting question.
mind.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I've always thought of Obama as sort of the quintessential puppet type
That's what I was gonna say.
and House Negro, but I actually, because he's sitting at the table now of
He's an
globalists
overlord.
as they re-architect the world, they need somebody like him there because he's got a lot of power
Right.
over certain communities around the world, and he's respected around the world. You and I may not have that kind of a respect for him, but he is respected globally. So
Right.
I think he's actually elevated now to the overlord archetype.
Status.
He would be one person I would probably put in that category. Oprah Winfrey, she has the money and she has the social power, but she is not an architect. So she's still what I would consider a house
House
Negro,
Negro.
and really doing the bidding of the overlords as they re-architect the world. So the
Okay.
overlords are completely Marxist. These are people that have brought in completely to the mindset that look, we are the world is going to collapse without us. Our legacy is important. We need to re-architect the world to make sure we depopulate and do
Bill
all of this other
Gates.
kind of stuff to preserve the world because we're the ones, the gifted ones who can carry out this thing. Everybody else are plebes. We can give them a little, a little stipend and sort of flatten the curve on any entrepreneurship, and just sort of do a great reset where everybody we take over everything and we just run it right,
So
globally.
like Bill Gates.
And yeah, that Bill Gates and I would say again Obama and certainly Klaus Schwab and Noah Harari and people of that ilk are in
Right.
that they're organizing right now. They're crafting various potential, let's say potential for the sake of this platform,
Right.
potential pandemic problems. They're orchestrating it. They're architecting it. This is kind of how
They
they
are.
plan societies, right? And so this is at that level. Yeah.
Wow. I think this has just been an amazing and fascinating discussion. I am sure my audience, listen, you've got to grab this book. The name of the book is Revealed: The Archetypes of American Politics. He is my homeboy. He is that dude that just makes it plain. Don't allow the names of these archetypes to make you feel off-putting or to feel that this is disparaging. It's verbiage and language that you can relate to, and it will really help you to understand in very clear layman's terms what is going on in American politics right now, and to determine whose side are you going to be on? Where are you going to fit on this spectrum? And then wherever you land, is this something you need to repent from? Because if you find yourself as a house Negro, I'm going to argue that there's a little bit of cowardice there. You really haven't counted the cost to truly follow Christ. Dr. Mack, tell the audience how they can get the book. Obviously, I'm going to drop it in the description box below, but how can they find and learn more about you?
Yeah, so you can get the book off of Amazon. It's also Kindleized, so you can get it on Kindle. You can just download it today and start getting into it. So Amazon, again, has that. Now, you can also follow me. I've just created a YouTube site, got a lot of shorts, a lot of videos out there already. It's only been up for about 4 days, and it's called Off the Plantation, the Journey Toward Freedom. Off the Plantation, the Journey Toward Freedom. And so I've got, and the shorts are coming, current events. Then I have some long form there that goes into a little bit more detail about what these various archetypes are, these pathologies that are driving people with their actions and intentions. And so I spend time there, and you could follow me there. Please subscribe there. I'm always dropping stuff there, so you're going to get your latest and greatest updates on that site as well. Then every BLM is our website, so if you want me to come out and talk, you want to put me on a panel, you want me to confront pastors, you know, in a very godly way. But if you if things like that, if you want us to, you want me to come out and do work like that, you can contact us off the website, everyblm.com. You can find out more about what we represent there as well.
Awesome. I've checked out the website. I had no idea that you were affiliated with Lonnie Poindexter.
Oh yeah.
I actually have been Facebook friends with him for a while. I think I met him once or twice in DC, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember. I'm getting old. But like I said, you'd be surprised, you guys. This community of like-minded believers and just conservatives, the community is very small, and you don't realize that you're 1 degree separated from someone else. And I'm so blessed and honored to have met Kevin and to learn more about him and to dig into his books. And, my life is crazy, but we will text from time to time just to stay in the know with one another. And I'm so looking forward to doing more work with him. You guys, get the book, Revealed, the Archetypes of American Politics, on Amazon right now. It'll be down in the description box below. Go and grab the book, digest it, get into it. It's also on Kindle, and I'm just pleased to have you here. Thank you so much for sitting down for this interview today. You guys, until next time, grace and peace.